by an Ascendium grant, where we've sent people into the community to make those contacts with employers and bring that contact back into students getting ready to graduate. I'll be honest, both those programs have been cut recently. We are looking for new ways to partner in order to make sure, I mean, do our instructors do their best to help students know where to look for jobs on the outside? Yeah. But is that a Band-Aid? Yeah, it is. We need to do a more effective job of making sure that we translate our students' success here into success on the outside. Anybody have a good option for me to stop sharing? Wait a minute, I've gotten it back now.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ray just said. You know, in the past, the employee program was a way to do that for many years. And we did serve a select population and through the navigating program, you know, which is both of those programs are over. So now with DOC working with a couple of different partners in the community that have DOL contracts, that's the way that we can try to help, you know, get those individuals connected to services in the community to help with that continuation to get placed into employment. So we just need to be sure that we have your information inside the facility so that we can say, okay, this program would work for you, this program would work for you to get that continued services while in the community.
I'll be absolutely honest. One of my goals here is to try to help solve that problem. I would love it if we had more direct contact with people who see our students once they leave the front gate. We get I take phone calls from students who call back every day, but all that is anecdotal evidence, right? A more direct contact, a more direct data as to what's happening to our students on the outside, that does nothing but help me.
Any other questions for Ray? And you can put them in the chat box if you think of anything along the way. We're going to move on to our next presenter, Joe.
And I'm also going to try to share my screen. I'm not a WebEx person either. Let's try that one. And are you seeing it? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. And still not. It looks like it's wanting to do that, but about now.
Not yet.
My apologies. I am not the expert on this either. Let's try it this way. Now?
Yes, something's going on. There we go. Got it. We see it.
You see it? You
Yes.
see my first screen, MinnCor Industries overview?
Yes.
Very good. Well, as Joanne mentioned, my name is Joe Winnicky. I'm the industry director here at Rush City facility. Little background, I've been with the department, I think it's 29 years next month, and I've seen the entire gamut. When I started, Prison Industries was a program. Most of the facilities, adult facilities, had very similar operations in them as far as cabinetry and welding and upholstery and all that. And shortly after I started in the early to mid 90s there was a downturn in the economy, and the legislature decided that the program was going to go away, and MinnCor, well, it wasn't MinnCor Industries at the time, but if Industries was going to survive, it was going to be self-sufficient and on its own. So it was about, I think in '95, legislation was put into place that we would become self-sufficient in 5 years, I believe it was, or we would go away. So in those years, we went from program to business-minded, and in the recent years here, not so many long ago, Joanne employee was started about 10, 12 years ago. So I've seen this full swing in my time with the department, from program to basically a business-oriented industry, and now back to full program. So yes, seen it all, and we're back on the track now. You mentioned, Ray mentioned employ, and unfortunately that program is gone right now. But MinnCor was the leader in the nation on getting that started, and looked at by many other correctional industries across the country as to how we did it and how we were successful at it. So it's really unfortunate that that has gone away, hopefully just for the short term. Some of what I'm going to share with you all might be a little more in depth, but at least give those that have no idea of what opportunities are available to the incarcerated individuals, and what we do as well to try to help them be successful upon their release. So I'll go through what I got here, and we'll talk a little about all of it. So going to talk about MinnCor a little bit. As I started out, I'm going to give you a facility overview. Like I mentioned, when we were programmed prior to the mid-90s there, a lot of things were duplicated in different facilities. Now we've sort of scaled down, and different facilities do different things, so there's not duplication. Of course, we're moving towards the person-centered viewpoint, and we'll talk about the specific skills that these incarcerated individuals have the opportunity to learn at not only the specifics of the facilities, the tasks, but just a job and interaction with leaders and such. So, and then towards the end, we're just going to talk about MinnCor's impact on Minnesota. So, our mission, of course, is to provide offenders job skills training to support their behavior and successful transition into the community at no cost to taxpayers. Like I mentioned, we are mandated by the legislature to be self-sufficient. So we are not a cost to taxpayers. We pay for the offenders' wages, all of our staff's wages that are paid for through our earnings. And like I mentioned, MinnCor came about in 1994 due to the centralization that I mentioned. And we have been self-sufficient since 2003, and that continues through today. We operate in over 18 business units. What we call a business unit is a type of work, whether it be subcontract or cabinetry and stuff like that. 18 business units over the facilities that we operate in, 6 of them. We assign or employ, however you want to look at it, but assign roughly 1,400 incarcerated individuals annually, which is about 20% of the population. Our annual sales revenue in fiscal year 20 was 40 million. That's a downturn from previous years where we actually exceeded 50 million. And all of our profit, if you will, goes back into the program. It doesn't go anywhere but other than back into the program. And over about 20 million has been spent locally on raw materials, and also with that supports our local economy. So our person-centered industries, we like to target the strengths and weaknesses of individuals, people that may have come to us with specific tasks. We try to help them get in spots that will only strengthen that. We establish a work ethic. Punctuality is important. Being here every day is important. Now with that, we understand that there's other things they need to take care of. Some of these individuals are working on other educational curricular things, and we'll excuse them from work for those types of things. But otherwise, being at work and being on time and all those things. Necessary confidence and skill sets, teach them what to do, encourage them, on how to do it and do it right. And just plain learn responsibilities, communicate, conflict management. We have that in our own jobs. So of course we have it with those individuals amongst their peers and with staff. So we team build through that, and just teach them how to be successful at work, if you will. So what are our facilities? At our Roseville operation is where our central administration is, or our sales staff, our customer service, our finance and all that, our sales and marketing, and also Bridge. And Bridge, some of you may very well know quite a bit about, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but that's what's at our Roseville facility. Oh, Bridge was the next slide, I forgot. So at Bridge, not only is our central administration there, but that is also where the work-related individuals can go to help transition back into society from one of our facilities. There we'll do some light assembly, we do some warehousing, we do some packaging of salt for sidewalks and such. And things they can learn there too, we do some balloon folding, it's a subcontract type storage fulfillment, how to warehouse things in and out, logging of, recording, doing the inventory. We also do a fulfillment for Department of Health. About, I think it's almost 2 years ago now, Department of Health was renting some space and employing some staff to ship out health notifications. If you go to your clinic, you might see a poster. Today is probably a poster about get your COVID shot. But prior to this, it was, get your flu shot, or here's where you might contact for this or that, the other thing. All of that literature is housed at our Roseville facility and is actually packaged by order from Department of Health employees all across the state, or clinic employees who may be requesting some literature, and we will fulfill that and mail that out directly to them all across the state. So that's been a win-win for not only Department of Health, but for us. We do the same thing for the Department of Corrections with this recent pandemic. All of the PPE that is being shipped to the various facilities is being fulfilled by the Bridge participants and shipped to the facilities. We do the same thing for the DNR with some literature and some minor little gadgets and stuff that they send out, and also public safety fulfillment. And then I mentioned we do bags and salt. Also at Bridge, and Ray mentioned it earlier, they, as part of education, will do some forklift training. So we do that here as well, but not only that, we have a computer lab where at least one day out of the 5 days during the week, the participants can go into the computer lab and we'll help them build their resume, and they can also do some job search there and have some correspondence with potential employers. So there's more than just the work there going on. We're actually helping them with their resumes and job searching, as well as being able to get their forklift certification. So in Faribault, another one of our facilities, I mentioned some of these operations were done in multiple facilities prior to the merger, but there we do some wood furniture. Used to be done in St. Cloud, Lionel, Stillwater, as well as Faribault before the merger, but now all Faribault. So we'll do some wood furniture, we'll do some casework. We also have a large industrial laundry operation which employs about 50 incarcerated individuals, and do laundry for not only the DOC, but for hospitals and other customers across the state, honestly. And then some plastic injection molding done down there. All of the foot lockers that are used in the facilities are made there, as well as some other things. And we'll do some chemical mixing there. A lot of the cleaning solutions that are used in the facilities come from there, and those chemicals are also sold to the public sector as well. And we'll do some subcontracting in Faribault as well. Just some examples of what's going on in the shops. They'll learn how to read and understand drawings, how to properly use tools. We have upgraded our equipment. You'll notice we say CNC machines here. Days of old, it was pretty much just manual saws and such, but we put the money back into the program to help these guys learn the new technologies that are out there. CNCs are very popular equipment now in not only woodworking, but metal manufacturing as well. So trying to keep up with the time, so when they leave, they have an experience of the real world. And then, of course, they'll have opportunities to learn how to finish the material, the wood, and some hazardous waste, documentation and handling of, and all the recording that goes on with that. So try to really get them real world experiences in all of our shops. So continue, like I said, we have a very large laundry operation going on. Multiple tons and tons of clothing and linens go through every day. And of course, in there they learn how to operate the machines and get it to the finished end, and actually linens folded back up on folders and shipped back out. And this is the chemical mixing that I talked about. This is just a small snapshot of what we're doing, but they're taking raw 55-gallon drums and dumping it in that large stainless steel vat, and the green motor you see sticking out from the top, that's actually a mixer with like a boat propeller on it, if you will. And they're actually blending chemicals that can then be bottled up and shipped out for sales. That's what goes on down in Faribault. So with that, they learn how to do inventories, the balloons and products that we manufacture, checking in goods from the suppliers, again, reading the work orders, verifying that things are accurate, and then doing quality control checks too on everything that we send out. Moose Lake is where our printing moved to. Printing was also done in a couple of different facilities. But at Moose Lake, we'll do some printing, we'll do some sewing, some high-vis material. A big customer of that is the DOT. You'll see our DOT workers out on the highways with their high-visibility orange and lime green on. Very good chance most of that's coming from our Moose Lake facility. We'll also do some upholstery, seating up there, and again, some subcontract services. So in the printing, again, we've tried to keep up with the equipment. We've spent a lot of money on some of our printing up there. So these guys are using the newest equipment that is available. So they'll actually do the offsetting of the press. They learn of the paper types, of course. The plate making, that's actually what the ink transfers, what transfers the ink to the paper are the plates. Pre-press production. They'll also learn how to maintain and fix the equipment if they need to. And this, we're pretty proud of this, they can receive a certificate through Printing Industries of America and Graphic Arts up there. So that, and printing is pretty good job to have. It pays pretty well out there. So we're pretty proud of that one. We also will do some sewing up there, learn how to understand fabrics, what they are, process. Again, there's a new CNC machine up in Moose Lake that we bought here within the last couple of years. Again, trying to keep up with the equipment, so when they get out, they have all the experience on the new stuff. And they also can receive a certificate in upholstery up in Moose Lake. So there's just a shot of one of the smaller sewing machines. Again, they learn, safety rules, understanding of fabrics, how to maintain the machines, pattern design, and all that stuff that goes with it. So, and then we do some assembly of some products for subcontractors. You can learn the computer skills, learn data entry. All the offenders take care of all the inventory pretty much at every facility. So there's a lot of computer time and data entry and such that goes with all of these jobs across all of MinnCor when they're in those type of clerk positions. And of course, just general organization and palletizing, distribution and such. So Oak Park Heights over in, I they call it Stillwater, but actually it's Oak Park Heights. That's where all the canteen is brought into and distributed from. The offenders incarcerated earn money, of course, and just like us, they want the little comfort things, comfort foods, cookies, pop, chips, whatever. Maybe not the best choice, because we don't all make the best choice either, but if they have a job, they have to provide themselves with hygiene products, so that is all sold there as well. And it's distributed from the workers at Oak Park through MinnCor and other subcontract delivery services and shipped to all the facilities across Minnesota. And there they'll learn inventory again, how to operate production equipment, knowledge and awareness of the store items, then keep their store stocked, because each individual might have a specific store and only certain items in their store that they're responsible for packing. So they'll have to keep their store inventory, when the minimum levels hit, they got to restock and stuff like that. Also, at the end, everything's packaged. It gives them an opportunity, sort of like a grocery store, where they'll scan everything in, and that's what the point of sale is. It's like the cash register at the grocery store. They'll scan everything in, make sure the order is complete, and package it up and get it ready to ship out. And just so you know that when those orders are going through, they're not recognized by individual. They actually get a generic number to the individuals, so the guys working the machine can't, oh, this is my buddy at such and such a place, I'm gonna slip them an extra Snickers. It doesn't work that way, so they know who they're packaging it for. So here at Rush City, the facility I'm at, we do all of the license plates and renewal stickers for every vehicle that's registered in the state of Minnesota. And we also do some subcontract work here as well. So with the license plates, the picture on your right is actually the picture of the license plate being printed to basically 1,000-foot long continuous sticker. That sticker then will later be adhered to the aluminum, and then it's punched out on a punch press that turns it into your license plates. With that, these guys, they learn not only the printing process, but they can learn the graphic arts part of it ahead of this. A lot of these critical habitat plates that we've seen come into play now here in the last several years have all been designed by the offenders working in the graphic arts division up here at Rush City. They'll take the basic generic design that's given to us, they'll put it into design computer, play with it, tweak it, send it back for approval, and on and on and on. So every one of those you see out on the road was designed and approved through the process here at Rush City by the incarcerated individuals. And there's talking about the graphic design there, again, getting ahead of myself a little bit. That's actually the computer that helps them do it. Like I said, they'll do rough drafts, they'll do final layouts, improvements where needed. And then the printer is actually a heat transfer ribbon. It's not ink. There is an ink one out there that we're looking to maybe upgrade to, but right now it's heat transfer ribbon. And they'll learn how to set that up. And it's only 4 colors, and 4 colors make all the colors that we are familiar with. So they have to learn how to do that and blend all the colors and everything. So it's quite involved, and it's a good opportunity for them. So before I leave Rush City, I talked just about license plates there. Also, we do some subcontract work here as well. Employs about another 100 guys doing some work that involves packaging, inventory control, quality control, and such. And then I didn't have a slide in here. We also partner with a local business here in Rush City called Plastec. Plastec is a plastic injection molding company. And Plastec has actually been a partner of Rush City since Rush City opened in 2000. And we want to keep them as a partner forever, and they want to keep us, and it's a good opportunity. What Plastec manufactures is a lot of stuff that is sold through Miller Manufacturing for the agricultural area of industry, and also maybe more so leaning now towards home use agricultural stuff, chicken feeders, egg incubators, and stuff like that more and more people are starting to use in their homes. And those are all assembled and packaged here at Rush City through the partnership with Plastec. So moving on to Shakopee then, that's our women's facility. There too, we'll do some sewing of textiles and such, and also some subcontract manufacturing. There, of course, the women will learn, how to do time study. So, here's the job, go through the steps into step by step, how much time this takes, how much time that takes, actually calculate it and say, well, this is, the amount of time it's going to take. The foreman will actually sit down with them, okay, well, this is our hourly rate, and they'll just walk through the whole thing and help them understand how you come at the cost. Of course, they're doing some garment manufacturing prototypes as well, and scheduling, dissemination of the work. They actually have line leads on the work that help get the flow to go through the shop. And again, die-cut fabric, button machines, embroidery, the whole gamut of sewing that is being learned down there. We also do some light manufacturing work with them. We have a couple rubber industry type companies that will send us their molded material that will need to be trimmed. Like a lot of times when these things come out of molds, there's stuff hanging off the edge that is a labor-intensive cleaning, so they'll work through that, clean that stuff off, and get it packaged back up and sent back out to the customer. And Stillwater was a lot bigger a couple years ago, but with the unfortunate incident that scaled back a little bit, but we still did maintain mattress manufacturing and some outdoor recreational products that we'll talk about. There they have the opportunity to do some warehousing and also some contract manufacturing. So of course, Stillwater's a big place. We handle a lot of big things there, so they get to learn how to operate forklift, warehousing functions, how you move product, how you stage product, get products ready for the next day, performing your quality checks on machinery, not only machinery you're operating, but the equipment that you're manufacturing. And that's pretty much done out in our warehouse. And they also had a janitor thing in here. Of course, every place has a janitor area. It's with that, you learn how to use chemicals, what's the right chemicals. Again, there's some dilution needed at the facilities. They learn all that. And sewing. Like I said, we did maintain the sewing of mattresses at Stillwater. All of the mattresses that are used throughout the department come from there, but they're also available for retail sale outside of the DOC. A lot of the cardboard from our other facilities will come to Stillwater. Might not seem like much, but it's a lot of material handling, and the cardboard crushing machine is a pretty powerful piece of equipment, and learning how to operate it is a warehouse function that could be transferred to the outside. We also, a lot of this product that is moved about and delivered throughout the state is done with MinnCor drivers, and those MinnCor drivers will take an offender with them. They'll take a minimum security unit from Stillwater with them throughout the state making the deliveries. So it teaches them, the trucking aspect of it, how to load trucks, how to, protect stuff that you're shipping, how to properly use equipment to handle it and stuff. So it's a pretty good opportunity. And then also the license plate fulfillment of bulk orders to all the 176 deputies in the state of Minnesota is done out of Stillwater. So all of the manufactured plates from Rush City ship to Stillwater, and there's offenders working there that build the orders to send to the deputies of all the plates. So again, just more opportunities of inventory control, processing work orders, and shipping them out. So what is our impact on the Minnesota community? Well, through the wages earned by the individuals assigned, over $1 million has went to child support. These guys with the jobs can pay their child support. And I can tell you, it's a pretty frequent conversation with these guys. Like, how can I make more money? How can I get more hours in or whatever? I want to pay my child support. I want to pay my child support. That's what I hear a lot. Not I have to, I want to. So that's a good thing. Through the wages they earn, they can help support their child or children outside. Also, roughly 23% is paid back to aids to victims. Often that's oftentimes court mandated, and that gives them the opportunity to pay that back. Of course, they pay taxes on what they make, and gives them the opportunity to pay back their restitution. And then there's other deductions that also contribute to what they pay out. So that's it. I know Joanne might have wanted it a little longer. That is just a big overview of what MinnCor does and how we try to help these guys be successful upon release. I guess I'll field any questions and see if I can answer it.
I think that the one question I did see was about pay, and I know Kelly did put the information in the chat about the pay that people receive on the inside. That was the only question I saw specifically about MinnCor. And then I think you just addressed stuff about child support, paying child support through the wages.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I was wondering, is there certain criteria that inmates have to meet to be able to participate in a MinnCor job? And if so, once they're done and get out, is there some way they can get a job reference for all the work they did while inside?
I'll give the second part to Joanne, but the first part is, yes, in order to get an assignment in industry, you have to have either a high school diploma or GED equivalent, or be actively in education to achieve that to get employed in MinnCor. Does that answer the first part?
Right, and what about like behavior? Do they have to have good behavior while inside to get into the job program?
We don't, there are some behaviors or some of their discipline, if you will, that may be on their records that limits them from certain areas. But then they do need to maintain good behavior once they're here, of course. So we don't penalize them if they've had some discipline from getting a job, but once they have the job, they're expected to behave, yes.
Okay.
So Joanne, can you answer the second part?
Yes, related to the second question, through the previous employee program, we have been, or the employee staff were able to verify their employment date. So there was the employee program number that we told individuals to give out to their potential employers in the community. They would call that number and we just would say, yes, they work for MinnCor Industries from this date to this date, and answer the question, are they eligible for rehire? The answer is yes. Unfortunately, if someone comes back to prison, they could get another job. And not only for MinnCor, I do that for anyone who is needing employment verification for that was previously incarcerated. So my name has been on that roster, if you will, for forever. I've been doing it. I just actually did one this morning, employment verification. We don't do reference, or we don't like talk about performance or character stuff like that. Just only verify the dates of employment and what they did, and we just really keep it that super basic.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for?
Were you going to talk about how much they're paid?
You want to talk about that, Joe?
Sure, I can do that. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so starting out, they start at 50 cents an hour. They can earn up, it's sort of confusing, but there's a 50 cent an hour and then there's a base pay up to $1 an hour. And to get to $1 an hour, you have to have satisfactory or above evaluations. And all of the working individuals in MinnCor get an evaluation every 90 days. And with a satisfactory evaluation, you can get an increase of $0.25. And in base pay, you can go up to $1. So in 6 months, you could earn up to $1. And then there is what we call pre-advanced and advanced. The pay plan allows us to advance 20% of the total in the shop. So if you have 100 guys working in a shop, 20% of them can advance to the pre-advanced, which gets into $1.50. So the pay continues. And then there's an opportunity for the 10% of the entire group to get to $2. And so in all of the people working, we could technically have 70 guys at base pay or up to $1, another 20 guys at pre-advanced, and then another 10 at advanced. And that's just an opportunity that, as you learn more jobs and become better at what you're doing, we can give you an opportunity to promote, if you will. And there's a really confusing part of the pay, and that is when we get into interstate pay. Back in the 70s, there was a federal law put into place, or a program put into place called PIECP. It stands for Prison Industries Enhancement Certification Program. And that was to afford the incarcerated individuals that are doing similar like work in these prisons back then, that was being done on the outside, to get paid comparable for that. So what has to happen with those individuals doing that type of work, and all of them working in Plastech fall under this, prison industries enhancement pay, they have to get a similar pay to the same type of work being done out in the community. In Minnesota right now, that hourly pay, and it's reviewed every year by myself as the PI coordinator and DEED. We look at the type of work that's being done in the facilities, we look at the type of work that mirrors in the community, and we come up with the average. Currently, that average is $10.70 an hour. So the individuals working in that prison industry enhancement program can earn $10.70 an hour. With that being said, in that same law, federal law that was put into place in the 70s, it says, okay, you have to pay them this, comparable to what's on the outside. However, if they're making that, they're going to be responsible for some of their costs of confinement. So at the end of the day, they do make more, but they don't get it all. They do have to pay some of it back, and it's up to 76% of what they earn. And this is per the federal guidelines, comes back into the department to pay their cost of confinement. So it's, and that too is on a tier. It's 60%, 64%, and then 76% at the highest level. So does that answer that question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for that, Joe Winnicky. Good information there, and there's a lot of questions in the chat. So I was trying to review some of those. You were addressing some of those things as they were coming up. So continue to put your questions, your comments in the chat, and we're going to move on to our next presenter, who is Jeremy Parker with the Department of Labor and Industry. And he's going to talk about apprenticeship programming and unions in the community. So, Joe, if you can figure out how to stop sharing your screen.
I am trying. I lost it, so let me try to get this off of here.
And while he's working on that, Jeremy, I saw you are there, and I'm just going to turn it over to you. So thank you, Joe, and I didn't say thank you to Ray as well. So thank you so much for the two of you thus far, and we're going to give it into the hands of our last presenter here.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and I want to thank Joanne and Kristen for inviting me. So background, it's been a while since I've been involved with this group. I used to be fairly active with it back about 10 years ago when I was with Goodwill Easter Seals Construction Training Program. So it's nice to be back. Hopefully we get the slide up here, my slide deck to go through. Joanne, can you confirm that the slide is up for me?
Yes, we all see it.
Awesome. All right. So everyone, my name is Jeremy Parker. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industries Division of Registered Apprenticeship. Been with the department for approximately 3 years now. So I was asked to present on registered apprenticeship and kind of provide some information about what it is. Just a little bit about the Department of Labor and Industry for everybody, just as a part of what we do at the department and what all areas of services we cover and provide for the folks and the workers of Minnesota. Our mission is to ensure Minnesota's work and living environments are equitable, healthy, and safe. Our vision at the Department of Labor and Industry is to be a trusted resource service provider and impartial regulator. Some of the divisions and services that are under the Department of Labor and Industry's RIF, OSHA, construction codes and licensing, so the folks that are issuing trades licensing, contractor licensing, building inspections, all of that fun stuff. Workers' compensation, labor standards, which the apprenticeship division is directly tied to. Labor standards are folks that handle wage theft complaints or wage theft investigations, prevailing wage, compliance and investigations, and construction misclassification investigations and determinations. The pipeline dual training, that is also another form of on-the-job work-based learning that the Department of Labor and Industry oversees. That is designed more for existing employees within a company. We can view it as the on-ramp to registered apprenticeship. They also work with some of the on-the-job training programs that are available in the schools, in our high schools throughout the state. And then lastly, registered apprenticeship. So I got a little myths and fact sheet here, but before we really hop into this, just for clarification, the term apprenticeship is used very, very fast and loose in regular society and in general conversation. So what I really want to do to just kind of set the tone a little bit and to just clarify what I'm going to be speaking about is that, again, that term apprenticeship is used out there in the community, industry, whatever, very fast and loose. It has multiple different meanings to multiple different people. For some folks, apprenticeship just means on-the-job training. For some folks and some businesses, apprenticeship may be used interchangeably with internship. It could be used as kind of a way to say that, you know, this is going to be a way for somebody to get some on-the-job experience, but I'm not going to pay them for it. But what I really want to kind of drive home is that when we are talking about apprenticeship here at the Department of Labor and Industry, we are speaking specifically and directly about state registered or federally registered apprenticeship programs. The difference between just the regular term apprenticeship and a state or federally registered apprenticeship are deep and wide. State and federally registered apprenticeship programs have to go through a process of registering their apprenticeship program with their agency in Minnesota. We are authorized and work under the authority and guidance of the United States Department of Labor to administer registered apprenticeship programs within the boundaries of Minnesota. Also, just for some of you folks, since so many people are working with transitioning individuals, if anyone has been inside of a federal correctional facility, such as Sandstone or Waseca, you may have them tell you that they did an apprenticeship program inside of that facility, and that would be true. Those are federally registered apprenticeship programs. We here in Minnesota have nothing to do with that as well. So if you had somebody that went through one of those programs, it would need to directly contact the U.S. Department of Labor Regions 5 office out of Chicago to get any type of documentation for the completion of their apprenticeship program inside of a federal correctional facility. So state registered apprenticeship programs, the employer or an employer group has to go through a process of registering their program with us. So that means they have to meet state and federal statute for how their program is administered. There's a compliance aspect to it. And again, there's pages and pages of state and federal statute that they must comply with. As to where somebody that just says, hey, I have an apprenticeship program, they may well have a very good, very well-designed training program. We do not recognize it until they get to that point that they register with us. So moving on. So some myths and facts about apprenticeship is that, one of them is registered apprenticeship programs are only in Minnesota's metropolitan areas. That is not true. We have registered apprenticeship programs operating throughout the entire state. A large majority of them, though, are going to be concentrated in your metropolitan areas, just like anything else. Registered apprenticeship programs are only in the construction trades, building and construction trades. This, again, is not true. Registered apprenticeship programs are becoming more common in non-traditional industries. I have a slide a little bit further on here that kind of shows where apprenticeship programs in the different industries, where you can find them, or where we have participating employers utilizing the registered apprenticeship on-the-job training program and model that I'll show here in a minute. Registered apprenticeship programs are only for large companies. Again, there's employers large and small that have registered apprenticeship programs. And again, throughout the state, registered registered apprentices will get trained and then leave an employer. Not necessarily true. Registered apprenticeship programs have proven to help reduce turnover and increase employee productivity and engagement in their workplaces. All registered apprenticeship programs involve unions. This is not true either. In the building and construction trades, we do tend to see a much higher concentration of labor unions sponsoring these apprenticeship programs. Part of that is just because this has really been their bread and butter since day one back in 1939 in Minnesota, when apprenticeship was officially formally recognized in Minnesota. Sheet Metal Workers Local 10 was the first program to file standards of apprenticeship with the state in 1939. And we can, and as we go through this, if you do have questions, I'll put my contact information up here at the end, type them into the chat, and we can address them once we wrap this portion of the presentation. So some benefits of apprenticeship. Employers, it can help them to build and shape their workforce, helps create a pipeline of new workers. Workers produce as they train, so that they're working while they're getting trained. It's improving productivity for the employers or those employer agencies. A reduction in employee turnover. It's a retention and transfer of organizational knowledge and occupational knowledge that's formalized. And employers have incentives to hire veterans through the GI that's available to veterans. They can, instead of receiving funds that would go towards paying a community college or a four-year college, they can actually receive a cash incentive from the feds if they're enrolled in a registered benefit or a registered apprenticeship program. I know I saw Ray Duha is on this as well. Ray Duha is on the phone from MDVA. He's a great resource on that as well. So if you are working with a veteran that's coming out of a facility and they're exploring registered apprenticeship, Ray Duha and his crew over at MDVA are a great resource for those folks as well on how to access those benefits. So for the workers, there's employment, which is a huge benefit. There's comprehensive job training, safety instructions, wages increase with progress, for mastering in-demand skills. They're going to receive a nationally recognized credential, and again about the GI benefits. And then just for Minnesota in general, it's a pathway to the middle class. It provides the state with qualified trained workers and quality training for those workers. Providing safety for our workers so that they're working in safer conditions, so that our folks at OSHA, their job's a little bit easier, and so that we reduce the number of workplace injuries and or fatalities. Just because as we get into this, you're going to see that a lot of the apprenticeable occupations are going to be in areas that are defined as hazardous work. And it's a way to help generate our economy, because a lot of these registered apprenticeships pay a very, very high level of wages. So there's a couple of slides here that are very similar, but are the same. So a registered apprenticeship program basically consists of 5 components. These 5 components must be in place for an employer or an employer group that we often will refer to as sponsor. They have to have these 5 components in place in order to register an apprenticeship program with either the state of Minnesota, or if it's outside of Minnesota's jurisdiction, with the United States Department of Labor. And those are employment, on-the-job training, related instruction, wages, and credentials. This next slide here kind of has a little bit better overview of each of those components. Oops. So in the blue section here, number one, business involvement. Really what this is the employers are involved in registered apprenticeship because there has to be employment. So kind of going back to that first kind of mention I made about the differentiation between just the term apprenticeship and a registered apprenticeship. In the registered apprenticeship, the apprentice must be employed. And by employed, I mean they're filling out and they'll get a W-2 at the end of the year. They're not receiving stipends. They're not receiving a 1099 at the end of the year. They're on a payroll. They're being paid. They are employed. So if you were to be working with somebody and they say that, oh, I got this great apprenticeship opportunity, and they start talking about it, and you ask them about, are you employed or what is this? And they say, well, no, it's like an internship. It's probably a really quick indication that's not a registered apprenticeship program. Two, the on-the-job, structured on-the-job training. State and federal statute require that the minimum length of a registered apprenticeship program is to be no less than 2,000 hours in length. So that would mean a minimum of 2,000 hours of on-the-job training, that they would be supervised as well by a journey worker or an individual that is designated by their employer or their employer group as being a competent person in that occupation. In Minnesota and throughout the nation, most registered apprenticeship programs is between 4,000 to 8,000 hours, 2,000 on the low end, 10,000 on the high end. But again, most are between 4,000 to 8,000 hours. So really, if you were to break that down on a yearly basis, it's 2 to 4 years. Registered apprenticeship will often be referred to as the other 4-year degree from time to time in conversations, because most times it does take 4 years to through that. Again, like I said, when they're out doing this on-the-job training, it's very formalized and very structured. So, they're going to be doing work while they're out there that is directly related to learning their occupation that they are being apprenticed in. So if they're a carpenter, they're going to be learning the skills needed to become a competent carpenter. They're not going to be doing a little bit of wood framing and then all of a sudden they got them out back painting or something like that. That doesn't work like that. It has to be directly related to that occupation. The apprentices also are required as part of their program, and their employers is to track those hours throughout their apprenticeship program as part of their compliance as well. So that when we go in and do yearly audits of these programs, we're ensuring that these apprentices are receiving training that is directly related to their occupation. They're receiving that training in all the areas of that occupation, and that they're working, right around 2,000 hours per year. Third part of it is related technical instruction or related training. State and federal statute require all apprentices in a state or federally registered apprenticeship program to receive at a minimum of 144 hours of related training or technical instruction outside of their regular work hours. So this training can be delivered in multiple ways. It could be through a correspondence class, some sort of an online training program, book program. There's still a few providers out there where the book gets sent out to folks, and then as they complete the book, they submit tests. Some of our sponsors and or employers may utilize one of the regional or local community colleges as well to provide some of their technical instruction here in the metro area. Century College is very, very involved and active in being a related technical instruction provider for some of our apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship program sponsors throughout the metro area. Or in other cases, the sponsors may have their own training facilities. When we start talking about the building and construction trades, and especially when we start talking building and construction trade unions, they all have their own training facilities throughout the state. The Carpenters Training Institute has a gigantic 100,000 square foot training facility over by the St. Paul Police Department over on Olive Street. That's where all of their carpenters, all of their floor layers, floor covers will go and receive their training. So they have these facilities throughout the metro area and throughout the state. Duluth, Rochester, Minneapolis, St. Paul are the big ones, but there are smaller facilities throughout the state as well. And those programs are all accredited by the United States Department of Labor and by their international labor unions and by the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industries Division of Apprenticeship as well to provide that related technical instruction. So you're going to have these folks that are going to be going to work during the day. They're going to be getting trained. They're going to be learning their occupation under the guidance of a journey worker or a competent person. And then throughout that year, they're going to be having to complete educational programming outside of their work hours as part of their apprenticeship program. Again, we require all of this training hours to be documented as part of their compliances. So as we go out and audit these programs, we're ensuring that these apprentices are receiving that training and are receiving appropriate levels of it. Which then brings us to the fourth component that must be there, which is pay. So all programs, all sponsors, when they're submitting their standards of apprenticeship, have to include a wage progression scale as part of their registered apprenticeship program. If they're involved with a labor union, those wage scales will be set by the labor union inside of their collective bargaining agreement. If there is no collective bargaining agreement in place, the director of the Division of Apprenticeship can have the final say on how those wage scales are going to be structured and set. We're really big, and with our current administration, we really want these apprenticeship programs to be a pathway to the middle class. So all of these apprenticeship programs must be paying wages that are considered family sustaining in Minnesota or the region of the state that this apprenticeship program is located in. So there's going to be a progression of wages. So an apprentice is going to come in. They're going to know exactly how much money they're making on day one when they go out there and start working that first hour. They're going to know how, where along that 2 to 4 year track that they're on, when each of their pay scales or their pay raises are going to come. They're going to know exactly how much that pay raise is and exactly how much money they're going to earn for those pay raises. Most of the pay raises are based on hours worked. Others could be structured that they're based on hours worked and competencies or skills gained or credentials gained. So really there's flexibility with these programs as to how these wage scales are structured. Then the last piece that needs to be there is a nationally recognized credential. So in Minnesota, once someone completes their apprenticeship program and will be moved to what we refer to as journey worker status, we verify that they have completed those programs, and at that point, we will issue them a certificate of completion from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. That certificate being, since we operate under the guidance and authority of the United States Department of Labor, that certificate is recognized nationally for that occupation. And being since the United States Department of Labor and Industry sets a lot of the standards for each of these occupations with the amount of on-the-job training they must receive, and the type of on-the-job training, and what type of related instruction. All of these programs are fairly standardized across the United States. So someone that completes a pipe fitting program in the state of Minnesota will have received almost identical training and on-the-job experience as a pipe fitter in the state of Arizona. So these certificates are nationally recognized, they're portable across state borders, and occasionally they will also be recognized internationally, primarily Canada and the United Kingdom. So those components have to be in place for someone to have a registered apprenticeship program. So as you can see, there's a big difference between the amount of requirements that must be involved for a registered apprenticeship program versus, some company or organization just saying, hey, we have an apprenticeship, we don't quite know what it is, or it's just, it's a 6-month thing, and then we turn the people loose back out to go and find employment. That's not the case with this. These folks are employed from day one. They're receiving detailed, structured on-the-job training that's supervised. They're receiving additional related technical instruction on top of it. They're receiving regular pay increases as they progress through the program. They're receiving a national credential. Another thing in Minnesota is that all employers must provide a registered apprentice with a minimum of 50 hours of safety training each year. And that's just to ensure that everybody out there is doing is going to be safe on the job, so we can reduce any of those potential workplace injuries and or fatalities. Quick little snapshot on the number of active registered apprentices training in Minnesota over the last roughly just about 25 years. You can kind of see the ebbs and flows with the economy. This slide was put together in mid-November for a presentation we did. We're at just shy of 12,000 apprentices. Registered apprenticeship has been affected by the COVID pandemic, just like most other industries have been, or other forms of employment have been as well. So we have seen a decline in the number of registered apprentices. We're about just a little bit under 11,000 right now at the last time I looked at numbers here at the turn of the year. And then just some of the demographic trends as well. We are really big about helping to increase the opportunities for those that are underrepresented or have historically been underrepresented in registered apprenticeship, on helping to kind of bridge that gap and make these opportunities more available. This is just kind of a chart. You can see the progression over the last roughly 20 years as the number of women and people of color have increased their participation in registered apprenticeship. There's a long ways to go. There's always room to improve. And we're continually working with those employers and those sponsors that choose to go down the avenue of utilizing registered apprenticeship on making sure that they are reaching out and connecting with those populations and those demographics as well. So where do we find registered apprenticeship programs in the state of Minnesota? What industries? This kind of little bar chart here. It's a little, it may not be the best graphic because this is showing the number of sponsors, so individual employers or agencies that have a program registered with us, but it's a pretty good picture. The biggest The biggest industry that utilizes registered apprenticeship, and where you're going to find about 92% of all registered apprenticeship opportunities in the state of Minnesota, is actually in the building and construction industry. So we're going to find more, the building and construction trades has historically used this model, and that's where we're going to find most of our opportunities. This chart shows it as second. Well, it's actually first by a very, very significant. The second biggest industry that uses the registered apprenticeship model is the utility industry, primarily in the electrical and water utilities. The reason why it shows this larger number being bigger than the construction industry is because we have so many towns and municipalities throughout the state that use this to train their power line workers and their power utility workers in their towns and counties. XL Energy, Minnesota Power, CenterPoint Energy, Great River Energy, any of your regional electrical cooperatives, your rural electrical cooperatives, and a vast majority of your public and municipal utilities use the registered apprenticeship model to train their utility workers. Advanced manufacturing is kind of the third big area where we find registered apprenticeship opportunities. This is an area that continues to grow. When we say manufacturing, we're talking advanced manufacturing, so CNC machining, CNC machine programming, setup, mechatronics, things of that nature. A lot of maintenance mechanics, maintenance millwrights, you'll find under this area. Healthcare is another area where we're growing more and more. Regions Hospital and Fairview, U of M, Fairview, I think is what they're calling themselves now. They're using the registered apprenticeship model to train existing employees to help them progress up to becoming registered nurses. Transportation industry, Metro Transit has come on board and has been kind of the big driver for the transportation industry. So all of their new bus drivers or coach operators is the term they're using that come on board to drive buses for Metro Transit will go through a registered apprenticeship program. The agricultural industry is primarily tree arborists, flour milling. The public sector and the information technology industries are very, very small and not a whole lot of opportunities in the state. But we continue to work. We have a couple of staff that do nothing but program development. So they're going out and working with employers, spreading the word, helping them to establish and set up these programs. Just kind of a little idea of some of the opportunities that are available in these industries in construction, building trades, and utilities. Building construction trades, again, are our biggest. There's 27 plus recognized occupations that are apprenticeable in the building and construction trades. Carpenters, laborers, pipe fitters, plumbers, electricians, millwrights, pile drivers, cement masons. There's a whole bunch of opportunities there. And for our audience here today, the building and construction trades have been very, very willing to work with individuals that are coming out of correctional facilities or may have convictions on their record. My prior experience working at Goodwill Easter Seals, I was able to work with these registered apprenticeship programs, primarily the trade unions in the metro area, and place numerous individuals that had some sort of a conviction on their background, ranging anywhere from number ones to level 3 sex offenders to get them into registered apprenticeship programs. So there are opportunities in this industry, and they're willing to work with folks. We'll put it that way. The utility industry, again, I mentioned like XL Energy, any of your rural electric cooperatives. Primarily, they're using registered apprenticeship to train their power line workers and plant attendants. Xcel Energy, so like their Monticello nuclear plant, Prairie Island, their plant in Red Wing, their gas plant down in Monticello. All of those plants utilize a registered apprenticeship model to train their workers. Other industries, like I said, manufacturing, CNC machinists, maintenance technicians, maintenance mechanics, agricultural arborists, so tree care, maintenance mechanics in flour milling, so Ardent Mills, which is a division of ConAgra. They have several flour mills throughout the state that utilize the registered apprenticeship model to train their maintenance mechanics for their milling plants. Healthcare, some of the occupations that fall under there, like I said, registered nurses at Fairview, but we have some smaller, primarily nursing homes or group homes that are using the registered apprenticeship model to train, CNAs, community health workers, and even surgical techs. Wilder Foundation here in the Twin Cities has a mental health practitioner apprenticeship program as well that's registered with us. In transportation, like I said, Metro Transit with their bus drivers or coach operators. And also too, we're getting more and more employers coming on board for diesel mechanics, which is an occupation that industry has a real hard time filling. So they've turned to the registered apprenticeship model to help fill those positions as their workforce in that industry turns out. Just a list of some of the employers for those of you out there that are working directly with individuals in more of the job placement area. We have this list available on our website as well. We have a locator tool that folks can use to search for registered apprenticeship opportunities by county, by occupation, or by industry. And it'll pull up a list. Thing with that list is just because somebody's on there does not necessarily mean that they have opportunities available at that moment. They just have programs that are registered with us. So I'm going to just kind of back up and being since just because I know from having been involved with this group in the past, a lot of you are working with individuals to help get them employed or educate them about employment opportunities. Couple of things, for those that are interested in pursuing registered apprenticeship, view searching for or trying to obtain a registered apprenticeship the same way you would looking for any other type of employment. Again, because there is that employment piece to it. These are competitive employment opportunities. We really encourage those that are interested in pursuing these to contact the sponsors of these programs directly. Each of these sponsors are allowed to establish their own hiring procedures and processes. And they vary greatly depending on the industry and the occupation and or the employer or sponsor. When we talk about the building and construction trades, most of those are ran through the building trade unions. So they actually will, for the most part, an individual will need to work through the building trade union to enter into a registered apprenticeship program. It could be through that apprenticeship program may have a application process where they actually bring on the apprentices themselves and then refer those apprentices out to their contractors for work. It could be, I'm thinking like with the construction craft laborers, Local 563, with their program, they'll provide interested parties with a list of their signatory contractors and encourage those individuals that are interested to begin calling around on that list to solicit their own employment, where they would receive a letter of intent from that employer. that they would bring back to the apprenticeship training center and then be registered and enrolled in the apprenticeship. So they all operate a little differently. A good resource that's out there is that we have our apprentice locator tool online on our website, apprenticeship.mn.gov. Another good tool that's out there, another good resource is constructioncareers.org. And I can provide some of these resources as well. You know, my contact information will be up in a moment. Feel free to email me and I can provide resources as well, or even possibly provide them to Joanne and Kristen, and they could send those back out to you all as well. But constructioncareers.org has a lot of good resources on there for how, you know, a little bit about each of these building trades, who to contact, the length of their program, average wages, so on and so on. That I really encourage folks to utilize. Our website, again, apprenticeshipmn.gov. We currently just finished up a bunch of new videos that are up on the department's YouTube page as well, that kind of have overviews of the apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship opportunities in the different industries as well, building construction trades, utilities, healthcare, manufacturing. That are just good educational resources for those individuals that you're working with. You're doing that career exploration piece of getting them to where they need to be. You know, I mentioned wages, these set wage scales. Right now, the approximate average wage of a beginning apprentice in the state of Minnesota is right around between $18 to $20 an hour coming in. Some of these programs, some of these occupations are much higher. And then once we start talking about the wages, once they complete their programs and reach that journey worker status, you know, for many in the building and construction trades, it's right in around that $35, $40 an hour range. And that's also going to include full benefits, health and welfare packages, defined pension plans, especially if these are, you know, they're being sponsored by one of the labor unions. In the utility industry, we're talking $100,000 to $150,000 a year that those folks in those settings work in. With that said, though, with the utility industry, a lot of their hiring processes are governed by, you know, Department of Homeland Security conditions and that, just because we're talking about the power grid or water systems, nuclear facilities, so they do have pretty stringent background checks. I do not know exactly how they view working with individuals that may have a previous criminal conviction on their background, on how that would work. That'd be a conversation to have with those employers. So with that, my contact information is up here, jeremy.parker@state.mn.us. Be more than happy to field any questions, provide any resources, additional information that we have available to any of you. Telephone number 651-284-5199. That's my desk number. You can call it right now. And as you know, most state employees, we are not at our desks at the moment. I will get a voicemail, but if you do want to get a hold of me directly with a direct question, you can reach me at my temporary state number, which is 651-508-3112. And again, be more than happy to provide resources or any information. If you're working with somebody, you know, that's specifically interested in, you know, exploring registered apprenticeship or getting more information, they can contact me directly as well. I'd be more than happy to have conversations with them, more information. One thing we do not do, though, is we do not, as a state agency, place people into registered apprenticeship programs. So just to kind of, if you're working with somebody and they do call us, just to let them know that we do not place people into these programs. So I'm going to pull up the chat here. I don't know, are there any questions that came in through here, Joanne, that you saw?
I think the one question that I saw was, and if I missed any, please forgive me. Someone wanted to have a list of felony-friendly second chance employers. I guess if you had any such list. And I do know that sometimes employment service providers don't really like to work from those lists because those lists get quickly outdated. Employers don't want to be on such lists. So there was some information that was passed out. Shelby Leah may have some sort of list. So I don't know if you want to address anything about felony-friendly employer lists that you may work with, Jeremy?
You know, we don't have anything directly like that. You know, and having worked in the placement side of things, working with individuals transitioning out of facilities and that, you know, what I found from my experience is to just directly work with, you know, reach out to these employers. Again, the building and construction trades have generally been pretty good at being accepting of folks with previous convictions on there. Like I said, I put folks. I had one individual that came out back when I was at Goodwill Easter Seals, who came through our program. After he completed it, I got him hooked up with the Carpenters Union as a framing carpenter. The individual at the time was a level 3 sex offender. He has went on and has completed his apprenticeship program. He's a journey worker. In fact, he's actually now worked with their union as helping to be one of their organizers as well. When he was injured on the job and he was off, you know, going to be off work for a while, they used him and moved him into helping to be an organizer for their labor union until he could get back to work. So the building and construction trades, there are opportunities, and again, it's just like everything else. You know, it's going to be them coming in and being upfront with what's occurred in the past, how it's, you know, what they're doing at this point in time, and you know what, you know, and just getting that opportunity to prove themselves. So there's a question here that popped up, which is a good one as well. It's, you know, is there a list of agencies or partners that we work with to place registered apprenticeships? You know, we work with a lot of the community-based organizations, you know, especially in the Twin Cities area, you know, Goodwill Easter Seals, Urban League Twin Cities, you know, Summit Academy, OIC. You know, we try to get as many of these community-based organizations to the table. So we try to get these folks to the table and to work with the registered apprenticeship programs and those in the community to kind of help bridge those gaps. SOAR Resources up in Duluth is another one we've worked with as well. And I know they've done some programming as well with some of the second chance and transition organizations up in that area as well.
Well, excellent information that we received here on today. I really just want to take this opportunity to thank Ray, Joe Winnicky. He's already signed off. I didn't see him in the list any longer. And Jeremy, a lot of information we received on today. Kristen did put in the chat that she will send out the PowerPoint presentations and any additional information. Jeremy, if there's anything that you want to get to Kristen, she can go ahead and get that out to the group. Just a good wealth of information. Thank you everyone for your questions, your comments, your information in the chat here. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kristen. We just have a few more minutes left here. Thank you all for your participation.
Thanks, Joanne. I really appreciate all of you guys. This was good, and I think some very useful information. So, does anyone have any questions about what we talked about today, or want to share anything as it relates to your work, experience that you may have had with apprenticeship, or referrals that you have made, or employment? Anybody?
I guess really quickly, if I may, this is Joanne again. I did put in the chat, someone had asked a question about how is DOC referring people to these community partners. Through the MinnCor grant, that is one of the objectives, to develop some type of referral system for the incarcerated to these community partners. So if any of you are interested in being a part of that, I want to put together a meeting within the next couple of weeks or so. I put my email in the chat. Please send me your an email that you're interested in, and I will get you included in that group of discussion. Thank you.
And if you're not familiar with MinnCor, I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So there's a link for you if you'd like to learn more about what that is. So that's all I have for today. Like Joanne said, I'm going to send out all of the comments and anything that was in the chat for you guys to see later, as well as PowerPoints. But thanks for a great Friday, and I hope you all have an excellent weekend.
All right, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Donald. See you later.